What is up, and welcome back to another episode of Blood and Beer, the show where we talk blood sport and we drink beer. I'm your host, Matt, and as always, we've got some MMA to talk. We're recapping UFC 312 today. It's the post-fight show. We got Dricus, Plessis, and Zhang, Weili, and still champions. So we're going to be recapping those fights as well as going over other points on the card and then looking ahead to what we have coming up next. So first, we'll start with the main event of the evening, Dricus du Plessis. He outstrikes Sean Strickland for 5 rounds, just looks like the better fighter out there the whole time. Goodness gracious, I got some allergies. But yeah, looks like the better fighter the whole time out there. He stands and strikes with them. It wasn't a very entertaining fight because there wasn't a lot of back and forth moments. It was one guy go, another guy go, a lot of standing and looking at each other. Because Dricus is just so awkward in front of you. He's so unpredictable in his movement. It's not like anything you can train for because it's not technically correct. So Sean just didn't have that go. He didn't know when to go, and you could tell that. And then in the 4th round, Dricus absolutely shatters Sean Strickland's nose with an overhand. And Strickland actually resets his nose and fixes it, but it's gushing blood. I mean, Dricus did the more damage this fight. He landed harder shots. But there's not a lot to take away from it because it's not a huge difference from the first fight other than less wrestling, more kicks maybe from Dricus. But Strickland, he just didn't have it tonight. Dricus did. Dricus is looking amazing. For as shit of a fighter as he is, as far as technical ability goes, his footwork, the way he throws his punches, the way he shoots his takedowns, all of it. For how shit all that is, the guy's unstoppable right now. His next fight's going to be against Khamzat Chimaev as long as there's no travel issues there with Chimaev. And from everything MMA media is saying, it sounds like Trump has agreed to work with Dana White to get Khamzat over in the U.S., but we could also see him in Saudi or in Abu Dhabi. So there's a lot of places that fight could happen, but that's most likely the next fight for Dricus. And how does that fight go? How do you guys think it goes? Because the way I see it, Dricus is so strong and awkward. Khamzat's never fought a guy as big as Dricus. The closest is Rob Whittaker, who used to be 170 also and moved up to 185. Whittaker's not a small guy at all, and he took him down with ease. But Dricus is a little bit better of a wrestler, I think. Not technically, of course, but he's just strong. He's a brute. He falls into you. And if Khamzat does get the takedown and goes to take the back, Dricus is so slippery. The way he just slides his legs right out of control and just goes back to the feet all awkwardly. And if Dricus can make it past the first round and a half, it's curtains because he's got the gas tank. Even though he looks like he's absolutely drained in every fight, he just never stops going. And we've seen Khamzat slow down in 3-round fights, so he doesn't have the gas tank for a 5-rounder. The tough thing about Khamzat is getting out of that first round and a half because he's so relentless. He shoots the takedowns immediately. He dumps all his energy into you. Strong as hell, but I think Dricus is going to be a tough matchup for him. So that's what we're looking at next for Dricus. But when Dricus got done with the Strickland fight, he goes and he calls out Alex Pereira. He says he'll do it at 205. Is there no one else? Calls him out. Pereira's in Strickland's corner. He doesn't like du Plessis, so there's some story there. And, Pereira's fighting on the next card. So the timeline, or the next pay-per-view on 313 against Ankalaev. So the timelines really do add up for those two to fight if Dricus wanted to move up. But I don't think the UFC's going for that right now. You got Khamzat waiting in the wins. You got Imavov, you got Caio Borralho coming up. So there's a lot for Dricus to do still at 185. And Pereira, if he wants to fight Dricus after Ankalaev, more power to him. Who else is he going to fight? He's cleared out the 205 division. That'd be fun, but yeah, maybe 1 or 2 more wins for du Plessis before he moves up. I think he could really cement himself. He might be able to surpass Izzy as the second greatest middleweight if he sticks around for a while. If he can beat Khamzat and then one more guy, he's probably going to surpass Izzy because he's got the finish win over Izzy. He would have beat the Boogeyman in Khamzat, defeated Sean Strickland twice, who beat Izzy. There's not much else to be said in the era that he's in at 185, even though it's kind of a shit division right now. He's been dominant even with his shit style. A shit style and a shit division turns you into a great fighter, apparently. But yeah, that's how I see that fight going down with Hamzat. That's what I see coming up on the horizons for him. We could definitely see a double champ fight for Dricus. It might be at the end of the year even. He might get to skip Imavov and Brahayo, but yeah, I don't like holding up divisions until you've cleared them out. Which is exactly what this next fighter has done. Zhang Weili, she shocks odds makers, defeats Tatiana Suarez in an absolutely dominant decision victory. Suarez comes out early and gets a takedown in round one. A lot of control time, but Weili eventually gets out of it and gets on top and does some damage as well at the end of round one. And from there on out, it was Weili's fight the whole way. She's stuffing every takedown. Every time there's a scramble, Weili reverses, ends up on top with a lot of top control time, a lot of damage. She cut Suarez up. Her head was bleeding, her knee was bleeding, her eye was swollen. Zhang Weili is the number one pound for pound women's fighter today. She's just a fireball, and she can do it all. She's so well rounded and explosive, so she can come out there and do what she did against Andrade and just like shot out of a cannon, just come out there and knock you out right away. She can stay kickboxing range and kickbox you for 25 minutes and beat you that way. Or she can go against the best wrestler in the division, that's Tatiana Suarez, the uncrowned champion, everybody was saying. They've been saying it since 2019. She can go against this woman that would have been in the Olympics had it not been for cancer, and she can out-wrestle her for 25 minutes. So there's nothing she can't do. The only real challenge left for her at 115 is Jandiroba, but with how we saw her handle Suarez, I don't see Jandiroba's wrestling being any different than what Suarez was able to do, which was nothing. So next thing I want to see for Zhang Weili, and tell me if you want to see this as well, leave it in the comments, but I want to see Zhang Weili versus Valentina Shevchenko. And I know Shevchenko's got a challenger in the waiting with Manon Fiorot, and Fiorot's been waiting forever because of the Alexa Grasso trilogy. She's beat everybody at 125, not named Shevchenko and Grasso. So that would really suck for Manon Fiorot. But when you have a fighter like Zhang Weili who's done what she's done and she's chasing greatness, and everybody's like, man, there's no other test for her. There's no other challenge for this woman. Move up and fight who I think is the greatest of all time in her division. At 125, pound for pound, I think Shevchenko is the best women's fighter of all time. She doesn't get enough credit for that because Amanda Nunes has the flashier knockouts, even though Shevchenko has some nice head kick knockouts, nice knockouts, nice submissions. But she's just been a dominant wrestler lately. She's been able to adapt her game. And there's a huge size discrepancy for Weili in that fight. I mean, she's short. Shevchenko is not super tall, but I think she's 5'6" to 5'8" range, whereas Weili's 5'4". Weili probably doesn't have to cut a ton of weight to get to 115. She's very compact. I think that, Shevchenko's size in wrestling could be a problem for Weili, but that scrambling ability, that gas tank, that explosiveness, the fight may never stay in one place long enough for Shevchenko to implement her wrestling the way she would want. That'd be a super fun fight. If Manon Fiorot does get the next shot with Shevchenko and she beats her, that's a terrible fight for Weili. Weili could out-wrestle Fiorot potentially, but Fiorot's a lot bigger than Shevchenko even. She's way bigger than Weili. It would just be a giant versus David versus Goliath is what that fight would be. So it's crazy. It's crazy to see how far Weili's come from looking like she was almost out of the title picture just a few years ago after 2 straight losses to Rose Namajunas. Well, not 2 straight losses. She had Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Rose loss, and then Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Rose loss. So, she looked like she was down and out. 2 losses can really set you back, especially when it's against the champ. But lucky for her, Rose had a dud of a fight against Carla Esparza, lost, and then moved up to 125, which opens the door for Weili. She comes in, she sparks Esparza, and she's been sparking everybody since. She's looked like an absolute killer, and it's pretty great to see Zhang Weili you're seeing a lot on X now. People are recognizing her as just the greatest. She's getting recognition. She's an exciting fighter, even in wrestling fights. It's just a high pace, a high motor, and she's always looking to produce damage. So, shouts to Zhang Weili, champion, number 1 pound for pound woman in my eyes. And the rest of the card wasn't very stacked at all. You only had 4 fighters on the main card that had a Wikipedia page outside of the title fight, so that's pretty rough. But we saw Taliesin Teixeira. He got a first round knockout in 38 seconds over Justin Tafa with a nasty close elbow, and then finished it up with ground and pound. Tafa protested immediately, but I mean he dropped straight to the ground and covered up like a turtle. So it was a good finish for Teixeira. He's 26 years old, 6'7". He's a huge heavyweight. He's a real prospect, but at heavyweight, being young's not always a blessing. Sometimes it's a bit of a curse because you got to get that old man strength. Heavyweights seem to hit their prime a lot later than a lot of other fighters. But you never know. We haven't had a heavyweight prospect in a while since Yailton Almeida or Tom Aspinall. Not a real heavyweight prospect. So maybe that's what this guy can be. And then Jimmy Crute and Rodolfo Bellato, they fought to a draw. Super fun fight. First round, Jimmy Crute beat the shit out of Bellato. He gets him down. He's landing ground and pound. And then when it goes back to the feet, he drops Bellato. Bellato's off balance. He's dazed, but he survives at the end of the round. And then Jimmy Crute's emptied the gas tank. He 10-8'd round 1. But then Bellato starts cracking the legs with low calf kicks. He starts just landing stiff jabs straight to Crute's face. He steals the next 2 rounds, and it's a fun fight. Crute's swinging, and he's cracking Bellato, but Bellato is just landing the better shots. So it ends up being a draw, 29-28, or 28-28. One judge had it 29-27 for Crute, but yeah, I'd say a draw was the right call there. And then finally on the main card, Jake Matthews picked up a unanimous decision over Francisco Prado after picking him apart on the feet for 15 minutes. I said it going into this fight. Prado's a 155-pounder, moving up to 170. Jake Matthews, natural 170-pounder. He's kind of big for the weight class, and he just looked a lot bigger out there. Prado looked like a lightweight fighting up. So that's what Jake Matthews did what he needed to. Got us some money on the card. We'll finish, first off, we're up 660 on this card. So the 705 from Saudi, 660 on this one. We're up 1365 year to date. We'll get Cody's numbers on his next appearance on the show. But yeah, we're killing it lately. So 2 big positive weeks in a row. On the prelims, though, Gabriel Santos gets a rear naked choke in round 3 over Jack Jenkins. Jenkins had a nice moment in round 1 where he almost got the finish, but then Santos puts him in a triangle. Jenkins gets out, survives. Santos goes on to kind of beat him up for the remainder of the fight until he gets that rear naked choke with the body triangle in the 3rd round. So good win for the favorite there. Quinn Silcaud, he scored a super fun 10-second knockout over, let me get this guy's name right, Anshul Jubli. And it was weird because when watching it live, ref did not stop it early. When you're watching it live, it looked like the guy went out cold. He got hit with the 1-2, body just goes flat, just stays straight, hits the ground. He's out. I would have stopped it too. It looked like the guy was out, but then as the ref steps in, he's shooting a takedown. The guy's like, no, I wasn't out. I was just dazed. Which, you watch the replay, that's what it looks like, but it's all about how it looks in the moment. And the ref can't be like, we'll let him take a couple follow-up shots, get some brain damage. No, if you're out cold like that, his job is to protect you. You can't fall with your hands down, stiff as a mummy. Fucked up. Jubilee loses. Quillen Silcaud, though, he's looking good. We'll have to see more out of him because 10 seconds in or 30 seconds in, whatever it was, not enough to know how great the guy really is, but he's definitely got some power. And then Rong Zhu gets a big win in an upset over Cody Steele, which was the fight of the night. Dropped Steele several times. Steele kept fighting. He kept pushing forward. He cracked Rong Zhu a couple times. But Rong Zhu was, I think, a plus 340 dog in this one. Big dog. So he gets the upset over the UFC debut of Cody Steele. And then Alessandro Topuria, he's the brother of Ilia Topuria. He made his UFC debut as well. He gets a unanimous decision over Cody Thickness. It wasn't an awesome fight, but he did have a pretty cool moment where he landed a belly-to-back suplex, lifting him all the way over his head, slams him on the mat. So that was pretty awesome. But for the most part, it was a pretty pedestrian performance. Not a great showing on the feet. He's got some ground game, but nothing that steps off the page. Not to make excuses for the guy, but it is your UFC debut. There could be jitters. It could be traveling to Australia. There's a lot of things that go into this. Change of opponent. the ring rust. The guy's been off forever. He is Ilya's brother. I don't think he's as good as Ilya, but we've heard from other fighters that this guy's legit. So we'll just have to wait and see what his next couple UFC performances look like. And then finally, Tom Nolan, Jonathan Miaclef, and Wang Kong all picked up unanimous decisions on the prelims. So, as I said, we're up 660 on this card, 1365 year-to-date. Next week, we got UFC Fight Night returning to the Apex. Jared Cannonier taking on Gregory Rodriguez. It's going to be a fun one. We also get to see Calvin Kattar on that card. It's gonna be a good card. We're gonna break that down. Probably coming out Wednesday for you, making our picks, breaking down the card. Thank you for tuning in. UFC 312. Hopefully that's the worst pay-per-view of the year because that was a terrible card. But I'm Matt, Blood and Beer. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to all my videos. Appreciate you.